Hey everyone, on this episode of Noon, meet Jen Hamilton, a compassionate labor and delivery nurse who's making a big impact in her community. Jen's dedication extends beyond nursing. She started programs providing cleaning services for new mothers and supporting families with challenging childbirth outcomes. Outside of work, Jen has a unique hobby. She keeps indoor chickens and loves to swaddle them. Join us for an inspiring conversation as Jen shares insights into her programs and her heartfelt motivation. This episode promises a touching exploration of compassion and community support. Let's get started. Ever wondered about the incredible world of nursing? If your answer is a resounding yes, then the Conversing Nurse podcast with the wonderful Michelle Harris is a must listen. Join Michelle each week as she engages in heartfelt conversations with nurses from diverse specialties, sharing profound insights into their roles, their love for nursing, and the positive changes they bring to the profession. Tune in on all major platforms to experience the warmth and inspiration of nurses who truly make the profession great. Link in the description below. All right, Jen, thank you so much for joining us on the Noon podcast today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no problem. I'm honored to have you on. It has been amazing watching you grow as a provider through your series on Instagram and on TikTok. Can I go ahead and get an introduction?
Absolutely. So my name is Jen Hamilton. I am a labor and delivery nurse, but I didn't start out that way. I started my nursing career back in 2012 as an emergency department nurse. After 1 year, I thought it was such an honor. They threw me into the charge nurse role, but that was just because I was like the most senior person there at a year after graduation.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I did charge nurse role until 2016, where I did management. So I was the assistant director of the department. And then that cured me of wanting to be in the emergency department any longer. So I ended up working on labor and delivery, where I've been for the last about 6 years. But back during the pandemic, when all that started, I downloaded a little app called TikTok, and I never would have thought that this happened in my life, but now I have 3.4 million friends on there, and that is a lot of fun to have. Yeah, so I now get to travel and talk to nurses and other healthcare professionals about the importance of compassion and empathy, communication with our patients, and more of, preventing birth trauma, talking about maternal mortality. So I'm very blessed to be able to talk about the things that are really important to me.
That is fantastic. Holy smokes. And is that something that is promoted through your work, or is that something that you're doing yourself?
Oh, only by myself. I try to keep my work very separate from what I'm doing online, because I know that sometimes if you can commingle the two, that there can be lots of opinions about things. So I just kind of keep it my own personal stuff.
Yeah, I don't blame you. There's a lot of anti-TikTok out there right now. So
Definitely. Yeah, I was told whenever I first got started, I had coworkers who told me that me giving education on labor and delivery on an app like TikTok is unprofessional. But my counter to that is where people are getting their education, whether we like it or not. And there are going to be people on apps like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, who are giving incorrect information. And these people will make decisions for themselves and their babies based off of misinformation. And so if we are not there to provide the correct information, they're going to get it from somewhere else. So I'd rather it be out there to have, accurate information. I always tell people, do not listen to me because I'm just a person on the internet, because I could be, misrepresenting myself. I could say, oh, I'm a nurse board certified in obstetrics, and not be. And I want to teach people really good media literacy, and not believing everything that we see, but using those things that we see as good talking points to talk to our own trusted healthcare providers about. because I see people that make decisions based off of misinformation and that have devastating consequences. So I think that being on TikTok as a healthcare provider is important.
Yeah, no, I agree. And would you say that your audience is directed mostly at lay people or both lay people and nurses, paramedics?
I love to kind of stay in the middle between the two. I love talking to nurses. I've done videos for EMS, and I also love talking to people who maybe aren't even pregnant yet and might be thinking about getting pregnant or are pregnant or have had babies. I think that, there's a lot to be said about all of those things. So I try not to niche myself down as somebody who only talks to pregnant people or only talks to nurses, because I think that there's a lot to be said to all of the groups who come into contact with pregnant people along the way, that we all can learn from.
Yeah, I agree. And you had a good way of describing it. I think you said anaphylaxis to pregnant people when you were in the emergency room. And I can totally understand that. And I would say that most of the providers that listen to my channel are also anaphylactic to pregnant people, right? It's just one of those
I
things
can
like,
relate to that.
oh, stay
Yeah.
away from me. So what changed your mindset from ER to OB?
Yeah. So if you would have asked me, 10 years ago, if I ever saw myself as someone who could work in obstetrics, I would say, hell no. Not just no, but hell no. I just remembered from nursing school, it was just a really wet place to work. Just like there's so many juices of different varieties, and it was not. And I mean,
Uh,
the ER is kind of the same. There's all sorts of juices there too, but birth juice was not something I was interested in.
no.
But what drew me to the labor and delivery job had nothing to do with labor and delivery and everything to do with the schedule. Because
Oh,
like I said, I was in management prior to coming to labor and delivery, and I just looked for anything that had me not at the hospital 7 days a week. So I found a weekend option position on labor and delivery. And even though there was like this, but they're pregnant people there, because in the emergency department, I didn't care if you had a hangnail, if you had a baby inside of you, I did not want you to be there. I thought you should need to go somewhere else. Because having a patient that you can't see is terrifying. Patient that can't talk to you, terrifying. Like it's it's so scary. So I had messaged or like emailed the director of that unit and just said, "Hey, can I come shadow?" Because at that point I was not convinced that even the schedule would be enough um to sway me over on that side. But I shadowed and I was like, "Okay, this is amazing." It's such a privilege to be at like the portal to life itself. And I'm sure that as a paramedic, you can relate to those times where you have been there when someone gives birth and it's like, that's crazy.
yeah.
Like that's amazing. So yeah, it was a really big mindset shift to embrace that part of me that was very afraid of pregnant people.
What an interesting start to that. And it's so funny, right? The little things that get us into those positions. And you're right, it is really amazing to be there when that life comes out, if it's in a good way, right? We deal with so many bad births.
Girl, yes, I know it's crazy.
I know that we have a high number here in the United States of babies that are stillborn, or have complications. What do you think's causing that?
There's so many things that factor into that. The first thing that comes to mind is that, you know, people are getting pregnant in not optimal states of health, right? So there are people that have very high blood pressure chronically or diabetes or there's a lot of things that allow us now to get pregnant when maybe before that wouldn't have happened. So I think that chronic disease definitely plays into that. Lack of access to prenatal care, and sometimes it's not even lack of access, but lack of I think about my patients who are teen pregnancies and trying to like hide their pregnancy, or it's not so much that they wouldn't have access if they tried, but like they're very afraid to get care. And I also think of that in, the fear that sometimes Black women have of coming into the medical situation because of the, racist beginnings of obstetrics and gynecology, and how, Black women are not treated the same when it comes to their pain or their concerns. So I think that, it's not just lack of access to care, but it's also lack of just getting to care. I think that also, there's so much going on, like with during the pandemic, there were so many people that would come in with stillborn babies after having COVID. There's not really any one thing that I can point to that says, it's this. There's just so many aspects that go into it, that I think that a lot of it could be uh, made better by, meeting people where they are. I talked about that, people who are pregnant are on social media and
Mm-hmm.
are getting education from there. Because you know what? People are not really taking birth classes as much as they used to. And they are getting education and those things that they need from like TikTok and Instagram. So I think that meeting people where they are is definitely one of the ways that we can help with all of those things.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I don't know where you're based out of, but do you guys have a lot of those, like, I can't remember what they're called, but they're basically the baby boxes, right? Where moms can go and take babies.
Yeah, I've heard of those. I don't know that they have them where I am. I know that my hospital, and sometimes like even restaurants, even like a McDonald's, it'll be like a safe haven where you can take a baby and just say, here's my baby, and walk away, no questions asked. I think that we need more of those. We need so many more of those. There's a lady that I follow on TikTok. I don't remember her handle. It's something like the baby box lady or something like that. But that's her mission, is to put baby boxes in, fire stations and EMS places, just so that there's more of these places where people can, take babies if they feel that they cannot care for them. Because otherwise, I mean, you have these devastating stories of people who, out of desperation, abandon their babies, or sometimes even kill their babies because they don't feel that they have the tools that they need to be able to safely care for this baby.
Right. And it could just be my lack of understanding, but I feel like the majority of that population is like the teens, like you were talking about, that are just trying to hide the fact that they're pregnant. Like we had a teenager not too long ago get arrested and put in prison because she threw her baby in the trash can,
Mm-hmm.
and hid it from her mom. And the baby almost died, but it was in a bag. So I think the heat helped keep the baby
Mm-hmm.
alive and ended up
Yeah.
surviving.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's it's so devastating to think about being in that position as I mean, it's a child. It's a child having a child. And your frontal lobe is not all the way working, and you make these split second decisions of like just trying to get out of the situation. And so it's just devastating to think about being in that situation, and the decisions that are made because of that.
I agree. And you talk about meeting them through with education through platforms such as social media. Do you have any other suggestions on what we might be able to do to help these teens feel a little more comfortable?
Yeah, there's actually a program where I am through the YWCA that connects teen pregnant pregnant teens with like doulas who can go with them through their pregnancy, help them with their prenatal visits, making sure that they have all the things that they need for birth. And I think the most important part of that is being able to walk with them through the birth process. Because yes, you can come to me in labor and I'm going to take the best care of you that I possibly can, but I'm still a stranger. And
Yeah.
if you have somebody who can come with you that and you've known for the last several months, who can kind of help facilitate that new connection with a new person, it can make all the difference. And even in just being comfortable enough to ask questions. When I'm taking care of somebody who is and I don't even want to say just pregnant teens, because sometimes I'll get people in their 20s or sometimes even in their 30s who are so I'm trying to find the right word. And the word that's coming to my brain is not a nice word, but I mean it in the most clinical way, that they're just ignorant of their bodies,
Yeah.
and they don't know what is happening to them. Not too long ago, I had a patient who was she was in her 20s, but had no idea what was happening to her. Um, and so I think that being able to, have her feel comfortable enough to ask questions, because I don't know what she doesn't know. And, I can explain all the things that I know to explain, but sometimes the questions that she would ask were not even things that I was thinking about telling her. So having these programs where you can have access to doula care, mm, so wonderful, because it's just a person there to help you advocate for yourself, help you to understand what's going on, help you to make those decisions that are scary. I think that just having another person walk with you through this journey, because not everybody has a lot of support at home. I can tell you so many stories of girls that have come in, and their family or their support system, there's no other word for it. They suck, just suck so bad.
Yeah.
I had a girl one time. She had just turned 16, and she was there alone for a while, but then her mom came straight from the club and was dressed in a bra, like an actual, like not a sports bra, like a bra, like from Victoria's Secret, and pants, and was drunk, so drunk. And all she wanted was for her mom to be there for her in that moment. And so I kind of took on the mom role for a little while, because I mean, she didn't have anybody, so I think that having access to doula care is going to be so important in facilitating, access to care, facilitating the connections that they need with their medical providers to be safe enough to ask questions, to understand things, to make, informed and empowered decisions for themselves. So I think access to doula care is like a great way that we can help with those types of barriers.
Yeah, mitigating those little steps. Is that something that's offered through like insurance or Medicaid or?
I think the one that I like, the program that I'm thinking of, I think that's a Medicaid program, but it's offered through the YWCA. I know that there are more Medicaid doula programs that are out there. And I think that just we need to expand that, just expand it.
Yeah, I mean, that's not something I've ever heard of before, so that's good to hear. And I think to push those resources out,
Yes.
that's good. That's excellent. I want to talk really briefly about, and I could be wrong, but what is your most popular video?
Ooh, I think my most popular video is, I think it was me trying to uh fight anesthesia when I was going down for surgery. I don't know
And
if you've seen that.
I have not. What was going on in that video?
Okay, so a couple years ago, your children do things to your body.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a secret, and my children did some things to my body, and so I was wanting to be snatched again, and also reinflate the ladies. So I went down for a mommy makeover, which included like getting the ladies done and them tummy tuck and all the things. So I went in to have surgery, and the CRNA is like, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And I said, no, you're not. And he's like, what? And I said, I'm going to try to fight it. I'm going to see how long I can last out going to sleep. And the nurse practitioner in the room recorded me on my urging, like I wanted her to. I wanted
Yeah.
to see what it
No HIPAA violations here.
No. There were so many people who commented on the video, like, this is a HIPAA violation. I'm like, I'm
It's
the one
my
posting
video. Yeah.
Right. Relax. So, he gave me like I think he gave me like some Versed or something, or fentanyl first. And like, you can kind of see me getting slower and slower. And, he puts the mask on me, and I said, I'm not going to sleep. And he said, oh, yes, you are. And I said, no, I'm not. And then I said, I don't normally cuss, but I said, because I'm a badass bitch. And like, I was just loopy. And then he gives me the propofol, and obviously like 3.6 seconds later I'm out. But yeah, I think that one had like 40 or 50 million views. It was
Holy
wild.
smokes. That is
Yeah.
so
And then my
funny.
second one, my second most popular is me swaddling my chicken after I gave her a bath. And then she just like purrs and kind of sinks down into her little towel. I love
Yes.
her.
So that's actually the video that caught my attention. And that's when I
Oh,
started
yeah.
following you. And I show that video to everybody. There's two great highlights in that video. And the first one is when you're swaddling the chicken and it falls forward.
I'm right on her face.
Yes.
The noise that it makes.
Yes, that one. And then the, like you said, the chicken purring. Like who would have known that
Yeah.
they purr when you
Yeah.
swaddle them? That is what
Yeah.
made you want to do that?
Um, so I think that requires a little bit of backstory because people may not know I have indoor chickens. So yes, I have outdoor chickens as well, but I have special indoor ladies and they are silky chickens. So if you Google a silky chicken, you will see why they are indoors because they are so fancy. And they have like these big poof ball heads. And it started out as like we had a chicken outside that got hurt, and I brought her inside to recover. And then she became too special to go outside. So then I figured out that there's chicken diapers, and it became a whole thing. So I have them inside, they wear diapers, and then like, once every couple weeks, you know, any girl gets musty crusty, you know?
Yeah.
So sometimes you gotta wash your butt. So sometimes it's gotta happen, and we every couple weeks wash our musty crusty lady butts. And then I like to warm up their towels so they get nice and cozy. And I knew that they purred. Like I'm her mom. Like I know that she purrs.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna get this on camera. And so I, as soon as I did it, she just right on cue. I mean, after I felt on her face or whatever, but
Yeah.
right on cue, she's right down into it.
I love that video so much. Like I said, I show that to everybody. It cracks me up so bad. It's such a funny thing. How many chickens do you have?
We have, I think, like 10 altogether, but two of them live inside. We used to have, so I had my original indoor chicken. Her name was Grit. No, 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 that's my other one. My original indoor chicken was Mayonnaise, and she was this black silky chicken, and she was the love of my life, and I love her so much. She passed away, but she also had a sister named Grits who was white. Um, and then after Mayonnaise passed away, I couldn't just have one in that. I
Mhm.
mean, because they get lonely,
Yeah.
and Grits got, did you know chickens can get depression? She had chicken depression.
Oh my goodness.
She was suffering with with her sadness. It was bad. So what she would do is she would we have like a sectional couch. She would go into the corner of the sectional couch and just stick her face in the corner so it's like holding her
Oh,
face up, and she would stay there all day. And so I would like try to get her out and snuggle her. As soon as I let her down, she would go right into that and just she was so sad. And so I found there was somebody who posted about a chicken that needed to be rescued. She had a good home and everything, but she was an outdoor silky chicken who was getting like bullied by the other chickens because she was blind. Bullying a blind lady is not nice.
it is not
So
nice.
yeah, and the chicken mom was about to have a baby, and so she couldn't like bring the chicken in. Like that's a big undertaking. So she wanted to find somebody who would take extra special care of this chicken. Her name is Rapunzel or Punzi, as we call her. I call her Puns or Puzzle Pop.
Poozle
But
Pop.
I don't know.
That's a great nickname, Poozle
Yeah,
Pop.
I know. Yeah. So now she has become integrated into our chicken family. She is hilarious because she has cataracts. She's
Oh,
an old lady with chicken cataracts, and I think that just adds to her charm. And
it
so
does.
she's like a Roomba. Like she'll just walk into the wall and back up and then go to a different direction.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
I
That is
love her
the
though.
best thing I've ever heard. A chicken Roomba. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. So do you pen them at night or how do you keep them at night?
They're cats. They just walk around the house and they just,
Oh, they're
there's no,
still.
the whole house is theirs. They can do, I mean, Punsy's kind of stationary most of the time because she does run into the walls. But, she could walk around if she wanted to.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And Grits, I call her Punsy's seeing eye cat because I mean they are like cats. We have cats in our house also. They all get along harmoniously and they just I mean because they're all I think the cats see them as other cats. So
I mean, why not?
yeah. So I call them my house cats and they just walk around. They have free reign of the whole house and they're just so lovely. I love them so much.
Have you gotten them the little arms that you can put on so they look like a
Yes.
little T-Rex?
Yes. And I've gotten like the ones that look like Arnold Schwarzenegger
Yeah.
muscle arms. Yes. They have hats. They have scarves. I mean, I could go on.
I love
It's
this.
and also backstory, I never wanted chickens. That freaked me out. Like they're too unpredictable. I was like, ugh, I don't want that. And my husband was like, "Oh, we need to get chickens." We live in the city, by the way. We have like a third of an acre or something.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and he was like, "I want to get chickens for the eggs." And I was like, "No, absolutely not." And he kept asking, and I kept saying no. And then he did something that I would do, which is that he just did it anyways. And I was at work. I was triage nursed in the ER at work. And I called him or something just to check in. And I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he said, "I'm at Southern States." Have you ever heard, do you know what Southern States is?
Mm-mm.
It's like a Tractor Supply. Keep
Okay.
in mind, at this time, we had nothing that needed Tractor Supply things, nothing. We didn't have a dog, we didn't have a cat, we didn't have a bird, we didn't have a horse, nothing. And I was like, "Why are you there?" And he said, "I'm getting food." And I was like, then really intrigued. I was like, "Food for what?" And he said, "Chickens." And I said, "Why is there an S on the end of that now? You mean you got more than one?" And he said, "I got five,"
Oh my
which is
goodness.
yeah, which is the maximum for the city. Like
Yeah.
that's the most you can have. I was like, yeah, starting out strong. Let's just get the most amount possible. But I was so mad. I was like, they better be gone by the time I get home. And then I came home and they were babies.
Oh.
Then I was like, okay, fine, they're cute.
So
We'll
he
see
did
how
it
this.
right. He
Yeah,
got the
he got
little
the
ones.
babies. Yes. And then I was like, okay, the cuteness, I got it. And then I became an indoor chicken lady. I don't know. Wild.
So I like how you told me that the max was 5, and then earlier you told
Mhm.
me that you have like 10.
We're
That's
keeping
great.
that's between us.
Sounds good.
Uh, yeah, we haven't been reported yet.
Oh, that's
So,
good. I mean, as long as you keep them clean and,
yeah,
you pass eggs
exactly.
out, then you're good. Are
Yeah,
you getting a lot of eggs?
when it's like warm time, we get a lot of eggs. In the winter, they kind of go into egg hibernation, like they don't lay as much. But also, in the city, you're not allowed to have roosters for obvious reasons. They're loud.
Obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we got a few more in the last few months, and then but they were like teenager chickens when we got them. And they're very hard to sex. So like sometimes you can't really tell if it's a boy or girl till they
Yeah.
get older. And I was uh getting ready for work one day. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm brushing my teeth, and over the sound of the zzz of my toothbrush, I hear I was like, "Mother clucker." It got one got through. And so then I know this has nothing to do with anything that we're talking about.
No, it's
So
fine.
I go out there in the dark of the night. Okay, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. These chickens, by the way, they have a coop. They have a coop with an automatic chicken door. Okay, it opens when the sun comes up, it closes when the sun goes down. Like they have a home. They sleep in the trees. Okay, so here I am out in the middle of I mean, basically the middle of the night, jumping up, trying to get into the tree to get down to what I think is a boy chicken. Okay. So I bring him. Oh, and I'm wearing like a headlamp on my head, like a miner. I bring it in the house. I mean, that in and of itself, I wish I had a video of that, of getting the chicken into the house. And then as soon as I get it in the house and shut the door, I hear, I was like, It was a different chicken.
Or you had multiple, right?
We did. We did have multiple. But I thought that it was I got the wrong one.
So what did you do? Did you have to sell them or what?
Yeah, so I posted in my local mom's group, listen, got some boys and we can't have boys. And I'm kind of a local celebrity, so like people, if they see me posting stuff, like, "Oh my God, you're in this group! What? That's crazy!" So there were lots and lots of comments saying, like, "I'll take them, I'll take them." I've never had so many people who would be willing to take on some roosters, but the person I ended up giving them to had no idea who I was, and so we met up, and I was like, "Thank you so much for taking them," and she's like, "I have to ask you a question. Who are you? Like, why are people wanting your chicken so bad?"
You're like, I got the special chickens.
Yes, yes. You want to know my chickens. Yes. Um, but yeah, I know this has nothing to do with EMS, but I do love
No,
it so
I
much.
I know, I can tell. So do you have any other animals other than the cats and the
The
chickens?
cats and the chickens. That's
That's
what we've
it.
got.
Have you ever
Yeah,
considered ducks?
we've had ducks before. Um, my pawpaw uh, one day I woke up and I go outside and there's baby ducks in my backyard, and I'm like, am I dreaming? Like this doesn't
Is
feel
this
real.
real life?
Yeah. And they were closed up in the coop. And I was like, these ducks have wandered into my backyard, figured out the automatic chicken door, and they have sought solace in the comfort of my chicken coop because they know that I will take care of them. Like, this is the sweetest thing I've ever heard. And then later on that day, my pawpaw called me. He's like, "Did you find anything this morning?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "There was a duck in my pool, and so I've dropped it off at your house." So yeah, we tried the duck thing. They were like wild ducks or whatever, but man, they are. I tried to make them indoor ducks, and they are messy. They are messy. So
They are
they found a
messy.
home too.
That's good. Oh, I love it, Jen. I love it so much. You were living a life I'd very much like to have. We live in downtown Albuquerque, and
Okay.
we used to live a couple blocks from where we live now, and one of the neighbors had chickens. And I guess there wasn't a rule, or there is a rule and nobody cared, but the guy next door had roosters, and that sucker went off every morning
Mhm.
like clockwork.
Yes.
But the eggs are worth it, I think.
Yeah, they're so good. They taste so different. They're like different in the best way.
I know. I on Facebook I've come across, and it's probably because I've looked this stuff up, but I come across the weird egg Facebook page where people are like, "Is this safe to eat?" And some of those
Yeah.
colors that come out are really gross.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Ooh,
Really wild.
yeah, that's so funny. So going back to medicine though,
Yeah. Sorry
um,
about that.
no,
I hijacked
no, I
so much.
loved it. I loved it. So one of my like, I don't know if you know anything about EMS. So in New Mexico, you start out as a basic, and then you can get your intermediate, or you can skip intermediate and go to paramedic. Well,
Paramedic.
I
Mhm.
did 3 years as a basic, and then I did 3 years as an intermediate. And when I went through intermediate class, my instructor was telling us these horrible stories about when he went and did his OB like rounds through paramedic school, and was talking about like some of the really gross discharge that he's seen, and even like maggots in certain
Yeah.
areas. Is this something that you've dealt with before?
More on the ER side than the OB side. Um, I will say that there are so many variations of normal to discharge and the juices that I spoke of before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I really don't see as much of like the outright, really, really bad stuff that you see in like the ER side of it. Because I definitely have seen some stuff in the ER with the maggots up in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, people people putting drugs up in their lady purse. All sorts of stuff dealing with down there. But in on labor and delivery, it's not as bad as it was in the ER.
That's good to hear.
I,
Yeah,
yeah,
his
and I always try to make sure that everyone feels comfortable around me, because I am in a spot that not a lot of people have access to down there. And I want them to feel, that I am not going to judge them, no matter what is going on down there, like hair, smell, juices, you name it. I've seen it.
How do
So
you
I think
keep that face? How do you keep it?
because there are so many variations of normal, like it takes a lot to rattle me, you know?
Okay,
It takes
there's a
a lot.
difference though between normal and abnormal. And there's been a couple times where I've almost lost face, like I think in this was an ER example, we had a female who came in who I don't gag very often. Okay. I'm pretty good with my job and I'm pretty good with the things I've seen
Yeah.
and the things I've done. And ooh, this lady came in and she was like, I have a smell, I have some discharge. And the doctor threw the speculum in, took a look, and when he pulled the speculum out, the whole thing was filled with very like pussy cup full of discharge. She was
Oh,
like,
bless
"Oh, well, I
her.
was in like a month ago and after, a week, I didn't know that my boyfriend lost the condom. He didn't tell me, and they found it a week later in her hoo-ha." So,
Bless her heart. Oh no.
yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I had to step out for that one.
Yeah. Whenever I was in the ER one time, I feel like all of my crazy stories are from the ER, but there was a lady who had lost something inside, and the doctor went to retrieve it. It was an orange, because she was like this is before OnlyFans, but think like cam girl type stuff. Okay.
Okay.
So she would insert things and be paid to birth them. Uh,
Like an orange or like a tangerine orange.
it was like a cutie.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
like a cutie. Okay. So, she was paid to birth them on the camera. And, she couldn't, I mean, it obviously didn't have a string. I'm sure being slippery up in there was very hard to grab. So, Dr. Speculum removed it, threw it in the trash can, and she said, "Oh, no, I need that." And I was like, "What?" And she said that she had to send it to the guys.
No.
No. Oh gosh. Yeah. Bless her heart on that is all I gotta say.
That's like that's like the prisoners that get the female panties sent to them.
Yes,
Like I'm sure
yes.
there's a whole website for that, but
Yes. I loved watching Orange is the New Black. Did you watch that show?
yes.
And they did that.
Yes, yes, she did. Uh, you know, I can't judge them too much because they're making like a boatload of
Hey,
money to do that.
yeah. Good for her. That's all I gotta say.
That's when you're like pinging the right hashtags, right? Depending on how
Yes.
much you're selling for the month.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
that's rough. So you were just recently on Good Morning America,
Yeah.
and what was that for?
So a few years ago, I started an organization. It's a group of moms who kind of just get together and rescue other moms who are struggling. So one of the things that can be very, very difficult to overcome if you're dealing with things like postpartum depression or other mental illness, or even sometimes just life events like you have a sick child or a sick family member, or, life has got you down. One of the things that's very hard to keep up with, and can kind of make things worse, is the state of your home. So we're just a non-judgmental group of moms who go into some really, really bad situations and will do dishes, laundry, organization, um, mopping, sweeping, cleaning, and just to give you a reset, just a fresh start so that you feel like you can move forward. Um, we're called the Hot Mess Express, and we are now a 501c3 nonprofit. And yeah, so we were on Good Morning America getting to surprise a mom who she had applied for us to come, and Good Morning America told her that she was going to be interviewed about it. But through her husband and everything, we were able to surprise her saying, like, "You've been chosen, and here we
Oh,
are." Something that was very important to me during that process was to make sure that her home was not shown at all, because that is a very, very private thing. And
Yes.
it's a big deal to ask for people to come into your home, just us, um, and even more so, if you don't know that we're coming. So, like, after Good Morning America showed the surprise of us just being in her yard, they left. We talked to her like, hey, we don't have to do this today. We know that you asked for our help, but this is a lot. Like, this can be a lot to deal with. So we can come back another day. Um, please don't feel like you need to do this right
Yeah.
now. She was very much like, no, please help me today. I would love that. So it was just a wonderful day, and it was so fun. And yeah.
What a great thing that you're doing. And was that something that you started or was it a team effort?
Yeah, so when it all started, there was a mom in a local moms group who posted anonymously asking for recommendations for a cleaning company to help clean her home. She was dealing with postpartum depression, anxiety, and she said, I can't even afford this, but I need help. Like, I can't keep living like this. Um, and so people were commenting, like, oh, use this person or try this company. And I was like, we are missing something huge here, because this is this is a local group of moms on Facebook, like, we all live here. This is the community. This is the village that they talk about when they say it takes a village. Like, here we are, and we're telling her to go hire somebody. So I made a separate post, um, saying, would there be anyone willing to go with me? Like, let's just go, if she's okay with it, figure out who this mom is, because this is anonymous, um, and let's just go rescue her. And so then, like, a couple days later, 8 or 10 of us rolled up and met up at a McDonald's, and we carpooled to her house and, lovingly kicked her out for a few hours to go have fun with her family. And when she came back, her house was clean, her laundry was done, her laundry was put away. We went to we found that there wasn't a lot of food in the home, so we went to Walmart and stocked up on hundreds of dollars worth of food. We made all these crock pot meals that she could have that, were easy to make. Um, so after that day, like, after that, we called them missions, but after that mission, we kind of looked at each other like, this is big, And one of my very best friends, Brittany, who now has taken over as, like, more of the um, running of the organization, that was the first day that I met her. And I remember us looking at each other and saying, like, this is the start of something huge. We had no idea what huge meant. Like, we didn't know that, someday we would be on Good Morning America doing this. But we have over 120 chapters in America, and people are doing it in other places. I just think it's so amazing.
That is amazing. And what a really cool idea and just an overall like great thing to do for them. And the amount of trust that takes too, right? Like that is huge. Strong
Yeah,
work.
I will never take for granted the amount of bravery it takes for someone to allow us to come in. Because that's a really big thing. I mean,
Mhm.
especially growing up. I mean, here in the South, as a woman, you're taught, like, oh, you gotta, have a clean home. You have to be a homemaker. You have to, make sure that nobody sees your mess. And, to invite people into your home when it doesn't look its best is very scary. And so I will never take that for granted, how much bravery it takes for somebody to ask for our help.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I imagine it's not like a hoarders situation, like the TV show Hoarders or anything, but
Yeah,
it's still
we do like some walkthroughs before we go in, because we have walked into some situations that are, what I say, above our pay grade, whether it be biological hazard type stuff. We try to uh, get them connected with support in those ways, that we can't, have, like, our volunteers walking into.
yeah.
So we try to help those people in different ways. But yeah, sometimes people do ask for help in hoarder situations, but we
Oh
kind of have
wow.
to give them other resources.
And is that like you're talking psychologically help and also like the physical help of having the
Both.
biological people come out? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, both. Yeah, just making sure that, they know the resources that are available to them to help with those kinds of things.
No, that's awesome. And good on you for being able to, find those resources that you can reach out to help all of the people. That is amazing. So you have a very positive outlook. At least you appear to have a very positive outlook on Instagram and TikTok, and we all know that sometimes that can be fake. Do you personally deal with anxiety, PTSD, or even imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I think that, being online, it's really easy to kind of think that everybody's got it all together. I really do try to be authentic and share, when things are not so great. But I think the things that affect me the most are definitely the things that I feel helpless in. So, at work, I know that you can relate to this, those times where you wish that you could have made a bigger difference than you did, or like you could have changed the outcome, or, there's something really devastating that happens. Um, it can be hard to pick up from that and go on to the next patient, especially in an area where, I definitely need to be happy for the people that are coming in, but it's not always a happy situation. So I can go from one room where this family is devastated by what just happened and then walk into another room and I have to be, congratulatory and supportive over, this wonderful thing that has just happened. So it can be very, dichotomous to kind of ride that line of, being what people need. And as far as imposter syndrome, hell yeah, like I don't know how I got to where I am right now. So kind of looking back, there was never a time that I was like, you know what? I am gonna be TikTok famous and I'm gonna work really hard to do all the thing, like I'm gonna do the hashtags and I'm gonna look at my analytics and um I just got a branding manager, which is apparently something that people do when they get to this point. And he's like, I'm gonna need you to send me your analytics. And I'm like, so where are those? Like, I don't I know that they're there. Like, I don't know what that all means. And I know that there are people that work really, really hard that may be frustrated in hearing me say that this wasn't something that I like really strived for. It kind of just happened. But I think that that also speaks to just being authentic and, just kind of being your own true version of yourself. That's something that's really, really, really important to me is to make sure that I'm like, if you look on my thing, it's not like I'm dolled up in makeup all the time or if you'll watch my videos, you'll see me wearing the same outfit for 3 days in a row. Like, because that's authentic. I mean,
Yeah,
I haven't changed my clothes,
yeah,
Uh,
no,
so yeah, I definitely deal with imposter syndrome. Like, what have I done to deserve this, I guess? But I just have to keep telling myself that there are people who need to hear the things that I have to say, whether it's education, labor and delivery related, whether it's giving healthcare workers the language and the tools that they need to more compassionately and empathetically connect with their patients, or if it's just a chicken being swaddled. I mean, sometimes people just need that
yeah.
and, had a bad day. So that's why I keep doing it.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And so you talked a little bit about how you might have to go from one room that's like completely devastating to another room that's where you're having to, perk up and be congratulatory. Do you feel like with your job and not like calling out any company specifically, but do you feel like you're getting the support that you need when you're having that hard time and having those bad patient outcomes?
Absolutely. One of the things that I treasure, and one of the reasons that I have not stopped working at the bedside, because I could have, I mean, I could if I want to, I could definitely make, content creation or whatever my full-time job. But the reason that I have not is because I love the people that I work with and I love what we do together. So having that support system of other nurses and techs and secretaries around me that are going through the same thing. Like when we have a bad outcome, like we are debriefing together, we are talking about it together, we are checking on each other. And I just think that that is such a powerful human connection that you can have with other people. And I know that in EMS, it's the same. Like you guys go through crap together, and whether it's the dark humor or the just knowing that you're there for each other, I think that that is just, priceless.
Yeah, the trauma bonding is definitely
Yeah,
something that
it's
helps.
real. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
it helps
sure.
us move through.
Yes.
Do you feel comfortable sharing maybe one of your worst stories or one of the stories that has been most impactful to you?
Yeah, so I'll say the most traumatic shift I ever had was in the ER. And this is the shift that I tell people was the last straw for me, working in emergency medicine. So I was working as the manager, so I was the assistant director. There had been some changes, so I had lost my co-assistant director. My director had left, and now we had an interim director. It was a lot, so there was a lot on me. Um, and not only was I doing like office stuff that managers do, but I was more often on the floor working than in the office, because we were so short-staffed. And I know that that is something relatable to everyone also, that, you just don't have enough people.
Well, and you're in
So
a
this,
position of power where you feel it necessary to go and be with your people.
yeah, and I couldn't imagine being out there drowning and not having my manager, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
feeling like my manager was at a computer. Like that would have really pissed me off. So I thought it very important. Like that other stuff can wait, this can't.
Yeah.
So I found myself, doing like taking an assignment or taking people upstairs or like whatever it was, I was on the floor. So there was a week, it was right after Christmas, in 20, when was this? 2017, I think. Um, and right there after Christmas, the ER is packed. And the hospital was what I call constipated, meaning that no one was moving. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
there's no there's no beds.
No.
No one's going anywhere. So you're running an ER basically out of like four beds because everybody else is technically admitted waiting for a bed upstairs.
And I want to
So
take a second. I don't mean to cut you
yeah,
off, but I want to take a second and just explain what that means. So, like when you have an ER, and I don't know how many rooms that your ER holds, but you're waiting for people to go upstairs and get admitted. But the problem people can't go upstairs is because the people that are admitted are still sick enough that they require staying. And then you can't move them out from your facility because no other hospital has any beds. So then your ER builds up to 70, 80, 90 people, depending on how big your ER is. You have people in hall beds. You have nurses who are running at a 6 or 7 to 1 ratio, so 7 patients to 1 nurse. You're short on staff people. You're short on techs, on every other kind of provider that you can have. So when somebody says that the ER is constipated, that's what that means.
that's exactly right.
Sorry.
And no, I'm glad that you're saying that because I forget that sometimes, people don't understand what that means. But so we were running the ER out of very few beds. And so I was the solo triage nurse for over 30 patients in triage. So having that weight on you of like, I hope I don't miss something, like that is a lot. People were waiting over 8 hours just to get somewhere to be seen. It was wild. So, and during that, because I am the face of the wait, like if people are looking for somebody to blame, it's going to be me. So I was getting called a bitch, a cunt, like all the worst things that you could call people. I was getting called that.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter how many warm blankets I passed out. It didn't matter how many um, ibuprofens I was able to, or even given fentanyl in triage to, like sickle cell patients who really, really needed um, pain control. Like I was giving narcotics in triage to be able to help people feel better. It didn't matter. Like there's
Yeah.
still going to be Jerry out in the lobby who, has had his, and I'm not saying Jerry's not needing help, but like, Jerry's belly's hurting or whatever, and he's pissed and he's
Yeah.
going to be pissed at me. And so anytime I walked out in the lobby, it was, calling me all sorts of names. Uh, and it was getting to be a lot, right? Just in like the stress. But then after that, I had a 6-year-old that trigger warning for sexual assault, a 6-year-old that had been R-worded by her uncle. and the mom had come in. I'm just talking screaming. Um, and that was a lot. Um, to to be involved in that. And then right after, like, oh, also everyone wanted to hurt themselves that night. I don't know what the deal was, but it was a very heavy on the suicidal ideations. So and I had no sitters, right? So I literally put chairs in front of my nurse's station in triage because
Mhm.
I couldn't put them in a room to possibly have them harm themselves. I had to lay eyes on them. So I had people literally stacked in the hallway in front of me just to make sure that they didn't hurt themselves. And then right after that, I had a dad come in, um, so suicidal. He was brought in by police because he had just been at the scene where his 2-year-old was hit and killed by a car. And the dad was just screaming, "I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna kill myself." And I, it was more than I could take. It was it was more than I could take. And I am not somebody who has really ever until that point dealt with anxiety or dealt with panic or anything like that. I lost it. Like I in triage 4, I lost it. Like I was crying, I couldn't breathe. I had never had a panic attack before. I didn't know what that felt like. And they had to call the administrative coordinator to come down and calm my ass down to be able to function. And that was the night where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Because another thing that I forgot to mention was that, yes, this was after Christmas, but it was also on my child's birthday. I had worked the night before, didn't go to sleep because I texted or called 56 nurses. I didn't even know that I knew that many. I was calling other hospitals to see if I could get help for that next night, so that I could be with my child on his birthday. And I found one nurse to come in for 4 hours, and that was it.
Jeez.
So after not sleeping, after having worked the night before, I came right back in the next night, and then that was the shift that I walked into. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then that was whenever I looked for literally anything else. And it was the shift that broke me. And I firmly believe that if I hadn't gone into management, I probably would still be in the ER because I mean, it was my passion, it was my love. I loved it so much. Like being able to have some of that like instant gratification of being able to help people or being able to figure out what's wrong. And we don't always get that, but it was it was that adrenaline, that um I don't know, the drama of it all sometimes was so life-giving, but when it got to that moment, it was life-sucking. And I was like, I felt the compassion leaving my body,
Yeah.
and I was like, I can't continue this way anymore. And so, yeah, then I shadowed on labor and delivery literally 2 days after that, and got the job. Thank goodness.
That sounds like an absolutely horrific shift, and I'm so sorry that you went through that. That's terrible, and it sounds like you didn't have the support that you needed at that time, which is
Right.
also unfortunate. And unfortunately, it's going on in all hospitals around, or I can't say all, but probably in a significant number of hospitals around the US.
Hmm.
How did your management team feel when you said that you were vamoosing?
They felt about as good as you'd expect them to feel about
Yeah.
that. Um, yeah, not very happy about that. And I knew that, I was leaving them in a bind, but I could not continue. Like
Yeah.
I could not, because I think that a lot of, healthcare is pushing yourself past your limits for the sake of others. And I got to the point where I was like, I'm not going to make it if this keeps it this way. So, um, I had to prioritize myself. I had to prioritize my family. I had to prioritize my own mental health, which I hadn't done in a long time. So it felt scary, but also liberating that like there was a way out. I guess, for me. Like I saw the light that at the end of the ER tunnel that I felt like I couldn't see out of before. So
Did they offer you any assistance or any help after you were like, I'm broken, I can't do this anymore, I need to move out?
um
I mean,
I'm
I
trying,
think that pretty much answers that question.
yeah, I'm trying to answer it diplomatically, you
And
know?
I'm not like, again, I don't want any
Yeah.
hospital names, I don't want any company names, I don't
Yeah,
want
no, no.
anything. I just want to know
Yeah.
if you felt like you had any support from that system.
I think they had great intentions. I'll
Okay.
say
Okay.
that. Great
No,
intentions,
that
you know?
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I unfortunately I think that's going around so much right now, and it's so I think I'm so grateful that I got out of the ER when I did right before COVID, like literally months before COVID started getting really bad. And I don't know how all of my friends did it. You know, I have so many friends that are in the ER. I worked in the ER in the trauma center for 3 years, and so many of them are gone from the ER now, still in like emergency areas like urgent cares and stuff, but out of that ER setting, which is really good for them and good for, I think, the patient population, because it sounds like, and again, I'm not trying to call anybody out, I'm just saying like that sounds like really unsafe staffing problems where you were working at, and really just unsafe for the patients and for your coworkers.
Yeah. One time when I was in charge, I called our emergence, like I called an emergency, like mass casualty incident because I was like, I bet that'll get some help up in here. We had 25 beds, right? And all of them were filled
Mm-hmm.
with either admitted patients or uh, mental health patients that could not be moved. So there was nowhere to put anyone. You
Yeah.
know, lobby full of people. And so I called one of those and it got help. They were pissed at me for doing that. But hey, I got what I needed. So that's it got some attention.
That's,
I
I
don't,
mean, that's good. If you felt like you needed to do that and you did it, and
yeah,
it probably helped all of your coworkers significantly, but then it also
yeah,
probably helped the patients in that situation. But we can't do that every day, which is unfortunate.
no, yeah,
But good for you for thinking outside of the box.
yeah,
Good for you for getting done what needed to get done.
yeah.
So you also are involved in a program where you work currently, the perinatal bereavement program.
Yep.
And what does that entail?
So everyone knows that, you know, if you come into labor and delivery, not always is it a happy time. And sometimes patients either expectedly or unexpectedly lose their baby for a variety of reasons. And I think it is so important that we offer these families tangible things to go home with to remember their baby by. And it's not just, you know, healing for the families, but it's also cathartic and healing for those that care for them to feel like we're doing as much as we possibly can. So, we have a beautiful room on our floor called June's room, and it's named after one of our nurses had unexpectedly had a stillbirth at 39 weeks, and she named her daughter June. And so we have a room that's dedicated to her memory, and it's a room where we as nurses can, you know, take the families to be able to um, you know, do photos or, you know, pick out an outfit for them to wear, to bathe them, to do the things that they may never get to do again. Um, and so it's very, very important to us to make sure that we have as much as we possibly can to give these families. So I think it was a couple years ago, we made an Amazon wish list and kind of put it out there in the universe and of things that we could give people, whether, you know, we have necklaces that have little baby feet on them, or we have books for siblings that talk about grief. We have stuffed animals. We have journals. You know, cute little outfits, blankets. all sorts of stuff. And people donated so, so much. And it's both comforting and devastating to say, but we have used so much of it already that now we're needing to, try to do it again because, it's being put to good use, I'll say. But, looking at the closet and seeing that there's so much less stuff than there was before just goes to show how not only how many people have that we've been able to help, but also thinking about the loss that is associated with that. So we have, photography programs that our nurses can go through. One thing that not many people know about is called saline immersion photography, which is an amazing way that we can capture babies' memory in like a more natural state, I'll say. Um, you know, just getting nitty gritty, babies who pass away, nature can take its course very quickly, and they may not look like you would expect a baby to look. And that can be very jarring for families. So, immersing these babies into saline and doing photography through the water can actually kind of enhance their features or allow them to kind of float in a like almost like they're still in the womb. And it provides such beautiful photos. But I think that it's us always looking for what more we can do. We also have partnered with our pediatric emergency department, and we have what we call a go box for when the pediatric emergency department has a death. We, as the labor and delivery nurses, can come down and do those keepsake memory box type things for these families. So we can make like shadow boxes, and we have little Scrabble letters that we can use to put the baby's name in. We can make handprints and footprints and molds of the hands and the feet, just anything that we can give them to kind of have something tangible to hold on to after that baby passes.
That's fantastic. And you guys are getting all of that funding through your wish list, or is that something the hospital is providing for you?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I'll say that the wish list stuff was kind of like I'd rather ask for forgiveness rather than permission to do that, So
Sure.
I kind of just did it. And then I'm sure that there were some people that thought that I should have, gone through the proper channels. But if you go through proper channels, there's so much red tape to get anything
Yes.
done. So I was like, oops, it happened. So, and we had all of the donations sent to our personal addresses so that, it was like almost like we were donating it. So it wasn't, so crazy to have all that stuff shipped to the hospital and be like, what the heck? Where'd this come from?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's a little bit of both.
No, that's really cool. What a unique program. Because I won't lie, I'm not very involved in our OB stuff here. We have 6 or 7 hospitals locally, and only a couple of them have labor and delivery. So that's something worth looking into to see if we offer programs like that. But I was talking to another gentleman who had a patient who had a stillborn patient, and they actually flew out a very specific photographer to help that family. So
Oh, wow.
I'm glad that you guys have locally the ability to have people come out and take those pictures for those families. It's something I've been seeing more and more recently, and what a just great thing for those families.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you'll get families who are like, why would we want to take pictures of this? This is devastating. But I always try to encourage them to just let us take some pictures, because this moment you can never get back. And, we may take pictures and you never look at them, and that is okay. But I just want you to have the ability to look if you want to. Because I've also had families who have declined that, and then later on may say, man, I wish that I had those photos to look at. So, I mean, it's really hard to make those decisions in the moment, but, we're there to kind of help walk them through it and help them to help make those decisions, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And do you guys go through like a course or something to help the family deal with death and to help them go through that process?
Yeah, we have like when new nurses come through, they have a course that they take. But we have this giant binder in our room that even if you've never done anything like this before, it's like all the things that you could possibly need to know about how to do XYZ. We want our nurses to feel empowered to do as much as they possibly can for those families without feeling like they're going to do it wrong. Like one of the things that we use, which I highly recommend if anyone is connected with any sort of hospital with labor and delivery, that they look into partnering with dental offices for their mold material. Like you go to the dentist and they take like a mold of your teeth. We use that same stuff for taking molds of the hands and the feet of babies. And they have that kind of stuff at Hobby Lobby. However, it takes a long time for it to set up. So, you're like holding the baby in a very precarious way, trying to get the mold to set up, whereas the dental mold that we have set up within like 3 minutes. So, we have all that mold stuff and we pre-portion it out into Ziploc bags with little stickers on it that say, step one, add 4 tablespoons of cold water to this one, trying to make it as easy as we possibly can.
That's amazing. Like, it sounds like you guys are doing a really good job to make sure that your nurses are set up for success. Because, like we talked about earlier, like one of the problems that we have as providers is that we feel like we didn't do enough. And if you're putting out step by step things that you're, like you said, empowering nurses or empowering techs to be able to go through this and complete these tasks, you're setting them up for success in ways where they're not going to have as much PTSD. They're not going to have as much anxiety. They're going to be able to get through it. So that's a great, great program that you guys are holding. Do you think that starting in the ER helped you set up for success going into OB?
It has been priceless to have that in my back pocket, not only for being able to think quickly on my feet, to know what to do in those situations that are medically scary. Because what scares OB nurses is if an adult patient is acting squirrely with some other part of their body, like their heart or their lungs or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel so comfortable and confident in those situations. I love having that in my back pocket. But also the ability to stay calm, because I think that the key to dealing with emergency situations is being able to keep your head when, excuse me, shit is going down.
Yeah.
I there's a nurse that I used to work with. Her name is Jenny, and she she still works with me. She just doesn't work my shift anymore, so I never see her. But
Damn it.
I know, she was an ER nurse also. So she came from the ER and now works on labor and delivery. And we were talking about how in the ER, your heart rate's always a little bit elevated. You know what I'm saying? You're sitting like 90, 100 all the time because there's stuff happening at every moment. So that when something really happens, you get that code or that trauma comes in, your heart rate spikes a little bit, then it goes hard, But on labor and delivery, we're chilling most of the time, Our heart rate's 62, cool, calm, collected all day. And then when something happens, we're like 180, because it's, it's not that we're not ready, but it's like that is like a crazy thing that's happening.
Yeah.
So being able to have that like ER heart rate at all times, kind of being prepared at all times for something to go down. Oh, it's so wonderful. And then I'm called on a lot for things like ultrasound guided IVs and like those ER skills that I have in my back pocket. Because that happens. And then like, if somebody comes in and they're like in some weird funky heart rhythm, they'll call me and say, "What is this?" So I love being called on for those things because I feel like, it takes me back to those ER days.
No, that's good. And it's good that you still get to practice those skills and hang out with them and you get utilized, right?
Yeah.
All right, Jen. So I just want to give you the opportunity, if you want to shout anybody out, or if you want to let people know how they can find you, give us your handles, your website, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so if anybody's wanting to talk to me or get in touch with me, all of my handles are the same. And it's underscore Jen, and this Jen underscore Hamilton underscore. So it's Jen Hamilton with 3 underscores intermixed in it, before, middle, after. But I have a blue check mark on my handle, so if you're looking for me, you'll be able to find it. Even if you just type in Jen Hamilton, you'll be able to find me.
Perfect. And do you have a website?
JenHamilton.co. C-O.
Perfect. Do you want to shout out any charity programs or anything else that you feel that we should have talked about?
Well, I mean, we can talk about how to get in touch with Hot Mess Express if they need help. If they're wanting to get involved with a chapter. Hotmessexpress.co will be able to tell you how you can start a chapter for yourself, how you can get involved and volunteer, and also how you can get help near you.
That's fantastic. What a great program. What a great conversation it has been, Jen. Thank you so much for coming out today on the Noon Podcast. It has been an amazing time.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
Thank you. I hope you have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Before we wrap up, we have a few important announcements to share with you. Firstly, we're excited to announce the launch of our brand new 911 Nonsense Facebook group page. It's a community where everyone can go to connect, share ideas, discuss topics from the show, and get all of the most recent updates about the podcast. We'd love to have you join us and be part of the conversation. Next, we want to ask you to rate and review our podcast on your preferred platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach a wider audience. By rating and reviewing the show, you'll be supporting us in a big way and helping others discover 911 Nonsense. If you enjoy what we do and would like to support the podcast even further, we have a few options available. You can visit samspursuit.com to find the links to our 911 Nonsense merch page and our recently released Noon gear page. Every contribution, no matter the size, goes a long way in helping us continue to better the podcast. We know that not everyone is comfortable being on the podcast, but we still want to hear your stories and experiences. If you have a compelling story and would like to share it to be read by me in a future episode, please reach out to us via email at 911nonsense@gmail.com or through our website's contact section. If you choose to be anonymous, we'll make sure to respect your privacy while sharing your story in a way that resonates with our audience. Thank you again for tuning in. We truly appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more engaging content in the future. See you next week.